Hey guys, welcome back to another video. So today, instead of going over pistols and drills, I just wanted to talk about my favorite rifle, my first AR-15, the Daniel Defense M4A1. But before I get into this rifle and the different parts on it, I wanted to talk about the why. Why did I choose this specific one? What was my thought process behind that? So I'm sharing this with you, so hopefully that when you're trying to buy your AR-15 or really any other kind of firearm, you can use this as a guide as well. I really asked myself just 4 questions. What am I going to use this for? What's my budget? What are some reputable manufacturers within that budget? And then after I've had the chance to actually go to the range and try it out, do I like how it looks and feels in my hands? For what I'd use this for, I was pretty real with myself. I knew that I'm just some normal dude who likes to go to the range on the weekends, shoot guns, shoot videos, and so I didn't need anything more than that, to be honest. I did take home defense into account, but I knew that I wouldn't need anything that was super high speed or too slick. In terms of budget, I knew that there were several different tiers of AR-15s out there, and I was comfortable spending a little more for something that is reliable and is known to be a very reputable brand. I personally am okay taking buy once, cry once approaches to my equipment, or really just any purchases, guns or otherwise, as long as I know that it's justifiable. Once I understood which tier of AR-15 I wanted, it was pretty easy to find a list of different manufacturers that fit all my requirements. You can find many that are out there. I personally landed on Daniel Defense, but there are many others which are just as good. And finally, in terms of looks and feel, I think it's really important that you like how your gun looks too. Because then you're going to be more encouraged to go practice with it, to figure out how it works. You're okay spending the money to purchase ammo so you can go train and get to know this. Guns are not just point and shoot. You actually do have to practice, and it is a skill that must be built up just like any other. I remember when I walked into the gun shop for the first time to look for rifles, and the M4A1 was out there on the rack. I love that contrast between the lower and upper receiver's black finish with that flat dark earth Riz 2 rail. I just kind of knew that was the one for me, and so that's how I also made another decision too. So as you do more research, don't forget to pay attention to what you like. So now that I've talked about the why behind my purchase, let's get into the actual parts themselves. So as I've already kind of hammered home already, the base gun is the Daniel Defense, the M4A1. I've added different furniture on it to make it look like the Block 2 instead. It was really just a personal preference to make it look better for me. I'd say in its current configuration, it's about 9.5 pounds, which is by no means light for an AR-15, but it's not an issue for me. I haven't done anything with the internals. It's just as it is from the factory with a mil-spec trigger. The barrel itself is 14.5 inches, then it's pin and welded to make it 16. And then on that, I have the Surefire Scout. I think it's the M640DF, if I remember correctly. And then the front sight is an M4 flip-up sight from Knight's Armament. I never actually have to use them, but it really completes the build, and so I wanted to make sure I had that on there. For the vertical grip, I switched out the Daniel Defense one that came standard with the Tango Down stubby grip. As you can see here, there is a pretty big crack on one of the sides. That is because I thought the fitment on the rail was so damn tight. I was impatient and I ended up taking a hammer to it, which is the dumbest thing to do, but hell, it works. I use super glue and it stays on just fine. So no hammers. It definitely takes some sweat to put this thing on there, but once it's on, it's on. Be patient. Don't be like me and just take your time. So moving on now to the optic, I went with the Aimpoint Comp M4S. I could have just gone with the Aimpoint Pro, which is an incredibly affordable and a really good option, but I like the fact that the battery compartment on the M4S was lower. I feel like that takes up less of my sight picture when I'm aiming, and the battery life lasts 8 years. So the mount I have on here is an ADM mount, American Defense Manufacturing, and it is a lower 1/3 co-witness. I think it works really well for me. I just prefer it more over absolute, where I have to get my head down a little lower, but whatever is best for you. The lever on the mount itself was engineered actually pretty cleverly. Instead of just one lever on here, which is what you'd think you would need, they actually have a mini lever. It's like a lever to open the main one. That's just to make sure that you don't accidentally open it since the optic doesn't fall off. So basically you just have to be very intentional in your technique when you try to take the red dot off the gun. It's also very low profile too, it doesn't take up any room, and it's light for what it is. So moving on to the bolt carrier group, this is often referred to as the heart of the rifle, and I do strongly agree with that analogy. If you are on a budget, this is definitely not the place to skimp. The bolt carrier group is actually in 2 pieces, but it's often sold as one. You have the carrier itself and then the bolt. You'll also notice that there are several different descriptions of these bolt carrier groups. You will see references to coatings, materials, then also different pressure testings. all of which are important to pay attention to. For this bulk carrier group in particular, it came standard from the factory. It's an M16 full auto profile phosphate coated bulk carrier group. The carrier is made from 8620 steel, and the bolt itself is made from Carpenter 158 steel, which has been shot peened, magnetic particle inspected, and high pressure tested. All of this is to say, it's very durable. I feel like I've said carrier so many times this segment. For coatings such as phosphate, nitride, or diamond-like coating, there is a difference between all of them, but I personally don't notice enough for it to be more than personal preference. Moving back to the rear sight, it's also a nice armament. I think this one is a 200 to 600 meter. What I like is that it has a very tactile finish if you have to adjust either the elevation or windage drums. It's very intentional and it's marked in a very intuitive way, so you can tell what your adjustments are. Now the charging handle is the PRI gas buster. I think it's the military big latch, or whichever is the smooth one instead. I got this one because I actually do like having a little more grip on the charging handle when I do need to chamber around. It did come with a standard Daniel Defense one, which does work fine. I didn't need to change it. But again, as I've been saying a million times already in the video, this completes the look. And moving to the back, we have the B5 SOP Mod Enhanced, the one where you do have the 2 tubes in it. And I really like having that thicker buttstock instead. I think it gives me a much better cheek weld and it feels very solid. And if for any reason I do need to take it off the receiver extension, it's very easy to just push down the lever and take it off. The gun's had about 7,000 rounds or so through it since I purchased it about 3 years ago, and I would say probably about 6,000 of those have been in the last year and a half when I just started taking shooting more seriously and just investing more time into it. And it's been mostly brass, but I have shot quite a bit of steel through it, and this thing just eats everything. On the topic of ammo, for the magazines that I use, I do have a handful of PMags, including some pretty cool ones with the windows, but I really just stick to the aluminum, those D&H ones from Palmetto State Armory. They work great. I've never had any feeding issues with them. I think it also looks more aesthetically consistent, but they're really affordable too, and they're great, so I think the value is really hard to beat. So that'll do it for this video. Thanks again for tuning in, and hopefully some of the tips that I've shared as well can help inform you as you're purchasing your own AR-15, whether that's for the first time or if it's your 50th. So until next time, stay safe, train hard at the range, and I'll catch you in the next one.